Shalom Israel, it's Kazawan. I'm doing this video because after I did the video proving that Ruth was an Israelite, I got a lot of questions from people asking me about Rahab the Harlot. So I'm going to deal with her in this video. Now, let me start by saying this very clearly. Rahab the Harlot was not an Israelite. She was a Canaanite. But that creates a huge problem that has to be cleared up. The problem is this. The common teaching out there is that Rahab the Harlot is listed in the genealogy of the Messiah, and that is not true. Now, we're going to look at the verse in Matthew chapter 1 that I'm talking about, and then we're going to prove that the person in that verse is not talking about Rahab the Harlot, contrary to popular belief. Contrary to popular belief. So let's read it. Matthew 1 and 5. It says, "And Salmon begot Boaz of Rechab, and Boaz begot Obed of Ruth, and Obed begot Jesse." Now, notice it says Salmon begot Boaz of Rechab. Now, people are saying that this woman Rechab in this verse is actually talking about Rahab the harlot. So this is what I want to deal with in this video, because what they're saying is that Rechab is just the Greek way of saying Rahab. And since the New Testament is written in Greek, the translators put Rechab instead of Rahab. That's the argument that's out there. So what I want to do is show you that this woman named Rechab in the genealogy of the Messiah is not the same person as Rahab the harlot. So let's begin. Here we go.
This was printed in 1967 before thou. Okay? Before me. You see what I'm saying? And they got the reference here, Rechab, you see what I'm saying, as Rahab. Right? You see what I'm saying? So if we go into the blue letter, right, and look up that verse, let me just stay right there. Let me just go look up the verse in there.
Yeah, go to Matthew 1 and 5.
Matthew 1. Check this out. Let's get to the point, man. I'm bouncing all over the place.
Yeah,
let's get to the point. No more playing around now. We just gonna go all the way in now. That's it. Rechab, that's it. No more playing. We're gonna get to the point and it's gonna be over. Right? Rechab, right? Now he's gonna go through his little thing.
Strong's G 4477. Rahab.
Right?
Clear's lexicon, related entry. Rahab.
Okay.
Now, let's get the root word etymology where this was taken from.
Okay.
This is the first cut.
Oh, here we go, right?
Oh, wait a minute, some Hebrew origin.
Right.
4460.
Right? So that word goes into wide. Rahab equals wide harlot of Jericho. Wow, that's the root word of that word.
Right.
Right? So we went to, we clicked on this one. I clicked on this one already. Let me see.
And then we can
yeah. Right. Hold on. Let me see. Okay. That's the first word, right? Rahab equal Y and harlot of Jericho, right? We click on this word. This is the Hebrew origin.
Strong's H 7343.
Rahab. equals Y, Harlot of Jericho, who aided the spies, escaped, saved from the destruction of Jericho, married Solomon, an ancestor of David and of Christ, commended for her faith in the book of James. So they also added this guy Solomon there, which we're going to go into that.
Right, and then we could just, if PW want to say, well, that's online. No, we have the actual book here that's saying the same thing. I show the people right here, 4460, and then also see 4477. Okay, 4460 right? Let me make sure I can see when I'm trying to show y'all the world. Okay. All right. All right. You see right there where my thing is at? Well, 4460 says of Hebrew or Rahab, i.e. Rakam. 4460 says of Hebrew or Rahab, i.e. Rakam, a Canaanite. Rahab. Also see 4477. I shown 4477. It's over here, right there. It's taken from the root. This root, the word right here, Rakam, is taken from the root word as we just showed you, Rahab, which is the same as Rahab, which is a Canaanite, and it tells you right there, Rahab. Rahab. So I don't understand how you getting two different people when the concordance is telling you that it's the same doggone person, man.
So what I want to do is show you that this woman named Rahab in the genealogy of the Messiah is not the same person as Rahab the Harlot. So let's begin. Here we go. Now, if you don't know the story of Rahab the Harlot, here it is in a nutshell. Joshua was leading the Israelites, and they were about to take over the land of Canaan. The first place in the land of Canaan that they were going to take over was Jericho. Now, at that time, Jericho was full of Canaanites, and Rahab the harlot lived in Jericho. She was a Canaanite prostitute. Let me show you that before we move on. Joshua 2:1. And Joshua, the son of Nun, sent out of Shittim 2 men to spy secretly, saying, Go view the land, even Jericho. And they went and came into an harlot's house named Rahab and lodged there. So we see that the 2 Israelite spies went to Jericho, and then they went into Rahab's house. Now notice that the first time Rahab is mentioned in the Bible, she is referred to as a harlot. Now notice that the first time Rahab is mentioned in the Bible, she is referred to as a harlot. Keep that in mind as we move on. Verse 2. And it was told the king of Jericho, saying, Behold, there came men in hither tonight of the children of Israel to search out the country. And the king of Jericho sent unto Rahab, saying, Bring forth the men that are come to thee, which are entered into thine house, for they be come to search out all the country. And the woman took the 2 men and hid them, and said thus, There came men unto me, but I wist not whence they were. And it came to pass about the time of the shutting of the gate, when it was dark, that the men went out. Whither the men went, I wot not. Pursue after them quickly, for ye shall overtake them. So she told the Canaanite king, she said, 2 men did come to my house, but they left. I don't know where they went. When it got dark, they went out the gate. But if you hurry up, you probably could catch them. So basically, she lied for the Israelite spies. Watch this in verse 6. But she had brought them up to the roof of the house and hid them with the stalks of flax, which she had laid in order upon the roof. So Rahab the harlot hid these 2 Israelite spies from the Canaanite king, and because she did that, they end up making a deal with her that when they come back to take over Jericho, they would spare her life and her family's life. This is Joshua 6:17. And the city shall be accursed, even it, talking about Jericho, and all that are therein, to the Lord. Only Rahab the harlot shall live, she and all that are with her in the house, because she hid the messengers that we sent. So that was the deal that they made. Now let's go down to verse 21. Here it is. And they utterly destroyed all that was in the city, both man and woman, young and old, and ox, and sheep, and ass, with the edge of the sword. But Joshua had said unto the 2 men that had spied out the country, Go into the harlot's house, and bring out thence the woman, and all that she hath, as ye swear unto her. And the young men that were spies went in and brought out Rahab, and her father, and her mother, and her brethren, and all that she had. And they brought out all her kindred, and left them without the camp of Israel. So as you can see, they kept their word, and they spared her life, and her family's life also. So that's the story of Rahab the harlot. She did a great thing for Israel, and they rewarded her by letting her live. But there was no part of that story that said anything about her marrying an Israelite and moving into the camp and starting a family. It's not in the story at all. But that's what some people say happened. See, but the scripture does not say that. As a matter of fact, the scripture says the exact opposite. Rahab the harlot and her family wasn't even allowed to come inside the camp of Israel. Let's look at this closely now. Joshua 6:23. And the young men that were spies went in and brought out Rahab, and her father, and her mother, and her brethren, and all that she had. And they brought out all her kindred. Listen to this. And left them without the camp of Israel. Meaning they left them outside the camp. They left Rahab outside the camp. Yes, they let her stay in the land, but she could not come inside the camp where Israel was. She was not allowed inside the camp.
And they burnt.
Hold on. Go ahead.
Because they were still over there.
Right, they was over there in Jericho. They was in Jericho. Right. So they removed her from Jericho. Yeah, moved over Jericho. And we're going to find out where she went. Right, because they were up there still fighting. They burned the city with fire. Right. They had to get her out of there. But she was going to be paying up. Right, so they got her up out of there. And then they spoiled the city. Right. And all that was there, and only the silver and gold, the vessel of brass, and the iron, they put in the treasury of the house of the Most High. Right, so they went in, they got her out of there. Right. The camp went in the city. She was without the camp. Right. She took them away from them. They was the direct camp that went into the city and spoiled the city of any precious metals, as you can see here. Right. Now read verse 25. 25. Right. And Joshua saved Rahab the harlot alive. Right, so she's alive. And everybody, right, and everybody is in her house is alive. Go ahead. And her father's household. Her father's household. And all that she had. Right. I know people like, yes, he saved her. Go ahead. She dwelled. She what? She dwelled. She. What does it mean to dwell? Bring on the definition just in case they don't get it. Man. I'm gonna write it up there for you. Try to read. Hold on. I'm gonna get the regular dictionary right here, right? Because it is English. Right? Reading English. I'm gonna get the blue letter. Get the blue letter. Dwell. Okay. Dwell. Okay, hold on. To live as a resident. What? To live as a resident, reside, to exist in a given place or state. Now check this out. Oh, check out the blue letter. I gotta get there with you, brother. Hold on, let me get there with you. Hey, this is gonna be a super cut.
Hawks mashes. Hold on. Joshua, where was that? What was that? What was that?
Joshua 6 and verse 25.
God, Joshua 6 and 25. Okay. Joshua 6 and 25. Hold on. There we go. Right? Joshua 6:25. Right? Where we at? Dwelleth.
Right.
Oh, right. Yeah. SHAM.
Right.
Okay, let's see.
Now.
Strong's 834:27. YAHAWAH.
Right. Now, we're going to go through definitions of what this could possibly mean in the blue letter.
Right.
It says a primitive root, properly to sit down, specifically as judge, in ambush, in quiet. Boom, okay? We know it's not talking about that. Here's another one. By implication, to dwell, to remain, to positively, to settle, or to marry. What? Marry. To marry. Marry. To marry. Marry. To marry. Or to marry. What? Marry. To marry.
It says, "For the Lord thy God walketh in the midst of thy camp to deliver thee, and to give up thine enemies before thee. Therefore shall thy camp be holy, that he see no unclean thing in thee, and turn away from thee." See, the Most High walked in the midst of the camp of Israel, so the camp had to remain holy. So there's no way that a Canaanite harlot came up in the camp and married an Israelite. There's no way.
To the law and to the testimony? If they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them.
So the camp had to remain holy. So there's no way that a Canaanite harlot came up in the camp and married an Israelite. There's no way.
When thou goest forth to war against thine enemies, and the Lord thy God hath delivered them into thine hands, and thou hast taken them captive, and seest among the captives a beautiful woman, and hast a desire unto her, that thou wouldest have her to thy wife, then thou shalt bring her home to thine house, and she shall shave her head, and pare her nails, and she shall put the raiment of her captivity from off her, and shall remain in thine house, and bewail her father and her mother a full month. And after that thou shalt go in unto her, and be her husband, and she shall be thy wife.
Wait. Notice in verse 14 that it says, "Therefore shall thy camp be holy." So let's see what the word holy means. Here it is. It's the Hebrew word kodash, and it means sacred, holy, holy one, saint, set apart, meaning separate. That's why they left Rahab the harlot outside the camp, set apart or separated from Israel, because the camp had to be holy. She could be in the land, but she couldn't come into the actual camp. See, Rahab the harlot did not marry an Israelite.
Salmon, let me get Ruth right quick. Okay, Ruth, the 4th chapter. Right? Ruth, the 4th chapter, about Salmon, or Slama, or I'll say Salma.
Salma.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And here you go right here. Right? And the woman, and hold up. And now these are the generation of Perez. My man, right here. There's Perez. Me right here. There's a son born to Naomi, and they called his name Obed. He's the father of Jesse, the father of David. Right? We established that. Right? Now these are the generation of Perez, which Perez is the son of Judah.
Right.
Okay? Perez begot Hezron, and Hezron begot Ram, and Ram begot Abinadab, and Abinadab begot Nasun, and Nasun begot Salmon, and Salmon begot Boaz. Okay? And Salmon married who? Rahab.
A.K.A. Rahab.
Rahab. And they begot Boaz. So therefore, if you're going to be hating on, you know what I'm saying, if you so think that Yahawashi genealogy don't have no mishaps, no hiccups, no nothing in it, then you need to put the Bible down. Put the Bible down.
and turn into certain.
But before you read that, I want to read this part right here about Ruth, right?
Go ahead.
A dwelling, in Israel.
Okay.
Antiquity of the Jews, chapter 5, book 5, chapter 7, verse 301. And they saved alive Rahab with her family, who had fled to her inn. When she was brought to him, Joshua owned to her that they owed her thanks for the preservation of the spies. So he said he would not appear to be behind her in his benefaction, right? So he said he would not appear to be behind her in his benefaction to her. Whereupon he gave her certain lands immediately and had her in great esteem ever afterwards. Right? So she was given lands, right?
Right.
And she was esteemed in Israel. Right? You see what I'm saying? And so now we read these scriptures and we start reading that Rahab is mentioned in Matthew. And you're like, who is this Rahab? Then it goes back to say this is Rahab. Then we go through the genealogy, right? We're reading the story of Rahab and we're going into Greek, the Hebrew, everything. It's the same person. And it's not
right. Now, why is it saying see Rahab if Rahab and Rahab are not the same? Well, 4460 says of Hebrew or Rahab, i.e. Rahab. Well, 4460 says of Hebrew or Rahab, i.e. Rahab, of Canaanites. Also see 4477. I'm 4477. Oh yeah, right there. It's taken from the root. This root word right here, Rahab, is taken from the root word as we just showed you. It's the same as Rahab. It's the Canaanites, and it tells you right there, Rahab.
Now, let's go back to Matthew 1 and 5 and read it again. It says, and Salmon begot Boaz of Rechab, and Boaz begot Obed of Ruth, and Obed begot Jesse. So again, people say that this woman, Rechab, is talking about Rahab the harlot. But this verse actually proves that this is not talking about Rahab the harlot. Here's what I mean. Now, on your screen, you see a list of Old Testament verses dealing with Rahab. Notice that all these verses refer to her as a harlot. Look at the highlighted sections of these verses. Joshua 2 and 1 says, and came into an harlot's house named Rahab. Joshua 6:17 says, only Rahab the harlot shall live. Joshua 6 and 22. Go into the harlot's house. Joshua 6 and 25 says, and Joshua saved Rahab the harlot. See, the reason why it keeps saying Rahab the harlot is so that you can identify who it's talking about. Rahab the harlot is a title that allows you to know exactly who the Bible is talking about. That's important because when you go to the New Testament, you can easily identify the same Rahab by the title that was given to her in the Old Testament. For example, here she is in the New Testament. This is Hebrews 11 and 31. It says, by faith, the harlot Rahab perished not with them that believed not, when she had received the spies with peace. See, there's no question that this is the same Rahab. Here's another one in the New Testament, James 2:25. Likewise also, was not Rahab the harlot justified by works when she had received the messengers and had sent them out another way? Now, again, this is the New Testament we're reading, and she is still being called Rahab the harlot, because that allows you to know it's talking about the same Rahab the harlot from the Old Testament.
So now we're gonna go through some blue letter things from back then, okay? Right? So let's get Rahab. Right, let me just share the screen right quick. And then I got a special treat for Rob. We have a special treat for Rob, okay? Everybody's so deep. Deep words, right? Deep in doctrine, right? So Rahab, we go to just type in Rahab. I think I got it right here. Rahab. Let me see. Boom. Rahab, right? Let me go right here. So we got Joshua 2:1, right? And they went and came into the Lord's house as Joshua 2:1, Rahab, right? We got Joshua 2:3, and King of Jericho sent unto Rahab, saying, bring forth the men that, wait. You didn't notice something right here, brother? Did you notice something right here in Joshua 2:3? It says, the king of Jericho sent unto Rahab, saying, bring forth the men that are come to thee. Something is missing, brother, that he said that distinguished Rahab.
Likewise also, was not Rahab the harlot justified by works when she had received the messengers and had sent them out another way? Now, again, this is the New Testament we're reading, and she is still being called Rahab the harlot, because that allows you to know it's talking about the same Rahab the harlot from the Old Testament.
Every time it says Rahab, it says harlot behind it. Right. Why is no harlot behind this verse?
Right. The king of Jericho sent unto Rahab the harlot. It don't say that.
Say it there. It says Rahab there. But his premise was everywhere you see Rahab, you see harlot.
So that's another lie.
Another lie. Do you see that? The lying prophets of the Most High. Right? Joshua 6:23 said, a young man that was spies went in and brought out Rahab and her father. Where's the harlot at?
Right.
He said, he put up his only little few scriptures to try to put you in a sorcery that have you think in a certain mindset that the Rahab in Matthew cannot possibly be Rahab because it doesn't say harlot. See that? It doesn't say harlot. But it doesn't say harlot here in Joshua 6:23. Let's stay over here. Let's stay over there. Let me look over here. All right, so we got two references where Rahab is not mentioned. So let me look up this Rahab here. Okay. Let me look up this Rahab. Let me look up Rahab here. Where we at? Right here. Psalms 8, 73:43, right?
Psalms 8, 73:43. Rahab.
There we go. Right? The same thing we looked before, right? Rahab equals wide. Wide, because she's a prostitute. You got the wide quabah. Use quabah. Okay? Right? We look up the etymology of the word. I can't say that word. Etymology of the word, broad, wide. There we go. Okay? So it's confirmed. That's why she got that name. Okay? We got these words here 5 times. Rahab. Right? And they went and came to the harlot's house. They were Rahab, same thing. Boom, boom. Rahab, harlot not there. Harlot right there. Same scripture right there. He intentionally left out these 2 verses.
Right, those verses, which is in the same book.
Which is the same book. You see the sorcery? He intentionally. Oh, let me go back to their video, man. These Negroes they slick as hell, lying, man. Let me go back to there. Out of his own words, out of his own mouth.
The harlot. See, The reason why it keeps saying Rahab the harlot is so that you can identify who it's talking about. It's talking about the same Rahab the harlot from the Old Testament. Now, the book of Matthew is in the New Testament also. So let's go to Matthew 1 and 5 and read it again. It says, and Salmon begot Boaz of Rechab, and Boaz begot Obed. Now wait, we just read in 2 different New Testament books where it said Rahab the harlot. But here in the book of Matthew, it says, and Salmon begot Boaz of Rechab. Why doesn't it say Rahab the harlot here in this verse? You can't say, oh, they just changed the spelling because it's the New Testament. Because we just read 2 times in the New Testament where they used the name Rahab. If this woman in the Messiah's genealogy was Rahab, then it would at least have said Rechab the harlot so that we could identify who she is. But it doesn't say that. Why? Because this woman, Rechab, in the genealogy of the Messiah is not Rahab the harlot. That's why.
Right. Now, why is it saying see Rahab if Rechab and Rahab are not the same person?
This is a different woman. Now we're going to go a little deeper. Stay with me, y'all. We're going to prove that this name Rechab is not the same name as Rahab, in case you still don't see it. Let's prove even further that Rechab is not just the Greek spelling of the name Rahab, as some people say. Let's look at Joshua 6 and 25 one more time. I want to focus on the first part only. One more time. I want to focus on the first part only. One more time. I want to focus on the first part only. It says, and Joshua saved Rahab the harlot alive. Okay, now let's look at this verse in Greek. Here it is on the screen. Now, I don't expect you to be able to read this, but I just want you to look at it so I can show you something. When you look at verse 25, notice that it says, Kai Rahab. This word Rahab is Rahab. So we know now that the name Rahab in the Greek is Rahab. R-A-A-B.
Well, 4460 says of Hebrew or Rahab, i.e. Rechab. Well, 4460 says of Hebrew or Rahab, i.e. Rechab, of Canaanites. Also see 4477. 4477. Over here, right there. It's taken from the root, this root word right here, Rechab, is taken from the root word that we just showed you. It's the same as Rahab, it's the Canaanites, and it tells you right there, Rahab.
Now, even though this is an Old Testament verse, which was written in Hebrew, we're actually reading the Greek version of the Old Testament. So we're dealing strictly with the Greek, so that when we go to the New Testament, which was written in Greek, there shouldn't be any drastic spelling changes for the same name. In other words, if we read the name Rahab from the Old Testament in Greek, it should be the same name in the New Testament in Greek, because it's all Greek. So in Joshua 6:25, we see that Rahab is Rahab. Now, let's go to Hebrews chapter 11, verse 31 in Greek. Here it is. This one is easier to understand because you can see the English written under the Greek. Now, here you see the name Rahab, and above it, it says Rahab, just like we saw when we looked at Joshua 6:25 in the Greek. Hebrews 11 and 31 has the same name, Rahab, R-A-A-B. And right above it, you see the Greek letters, the Greek way of spelling Rahab or Rahab. Now, let's go to James 2:25 in the Greek. Here it is. And again, you see the name Rahab, and right above it, Rahab, R-A-A-B. And above that, you see the same Greek spelling for Rahab or Rahab as we saw before. Now remember, this is all Greek. So let's go to Matthew 1 and 5 and look at the name written in the genealogy of the Messiah. Now, if it's the same spelling or the same Greek letters, then you could say that this is Rahab the Harlot. But if it's a different spelling and a different name, you have to admit that it's a whole different person because we've been dealing with the Greek only in the Old and the New Testament. So there is no reason for the name to be spelled different. The translation excuse does not apply because we've been looking only at the Greek. So if it's a different name, you have to admit that it's a different person. Here we go. Matthew 1 and 5 in the Greek. Now, when you read the English, it says Salmon begot Boaz of Rahab. And when you look above it, it says Rahab. Notice that it doesn't say Rahab like it did before in the other verses. And when you look above that at the actual Greek writing, you can see that the spelling is different. Here are the two names side by side. Rahab, which is Rahab, and Rahab, which is Rahab. These are two different names. Therefore, you have to conclude that these are two different women.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my God, stop fucking lying.
There's no translation going on because this is all Greek. So Rahab the harlot is not listed in the genealogy of the Messiah. Solomon did not marry her. Solomon married an Israelite woman named Rahab.
What?
And Ram of these the sons also of Hezron that were born unto him, Jaramil and Ram and Chinlabah. And Ram begot Abinadab, and Abinadab begot Nashon, prince of the children of Judah.
Tribe of Judah. Go ahead.
And Nashon begot Salma, and Salma begot Boaz.
So Boaz got two different baby daddies now, huh?
What are you talking about, man? Okay, we got Solomon, right? Okay, let's go. Right, we got Solomon here, y'all.
Take off the screen share. All right.
Yeah, let me take off the screen share. Stop screen share. Are y'all ready? Look at that. Right, where my finger was at, right there. Where is that? Right here.
Right there, very top.
Very top, y'all. Look right here. Can y'all see it? Solomon. Can you read it? Anybody can see it? Read it. What it says there. The father of Boaz. See what it says? Father of Boaz, right?
Right. What does it say next to that? Right. Now jump up. What does it say next to his name, Salmon? See who?
She Salma. Hold on. So right here, 1 Chronicles 2:11. Right? See what I'm saying? So we're going to click on 1 Chronicles 2:11 in the blues. And we got Salma right here. And it goes. Salma equals garment.
Hey,
Father of Boaz.
brother, stop lying.
I can say father of Boaz, brother. I can read it.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. Shalaki.
Okay. Father-in-law of Ruth.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. There's nothing else. Father of Boaz and father-in-law of Ruth. And the grandfather of David.
King David.
King David. So in the records of Rahab, she married Salma.
So she married Salma and Salmon?
Salma and two men. Yeah, that's two different names.
But the proof is saying that the same person.
It is saying that. So let's go to Matthew where he's spelling different at over here.
Okay.
It says salmon like a fish.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Right? And Aaron begot Abinadab. We just read that.
Right.
And Abinadab begot Nason.
Right. That's spelled different.
Right? That's different.
That's different.
All these different names of what's going
It's
on.
spelled different. It's just like if somebody's name was Kimberly, and you spell their name Kimberly, but somebody else, I come along and say, yeah, I know Kimberly. How do you spell her name? Kimberlee. It's still Kimberly.
Still Kimberly, right?
I'm still talking about the same person, right?
Still talking about the same person. Okay? And it says, and Nason begot Salmon. Right? Right? So let's click on the blue letters here because he's a forefather. He's a husband. Right? And we're not even finished by the other part about go out the camp words. I'm about to get hit in a second. Okay?
Strong's G 4533.
Salmon. I'm Salmon. Okay? Hold up. The father of Boaz in the genealogy of a MASHAYACH
The
YAHAWAH.
genealogy of a MASHAYACH YAHAWAH?
The genealogy of MASHAYACH YAHAWAH. He married a Canaanite woman.
Oh, wow.
What? A Canaanite in the direct genealogy of YAHAWAH.
Right.
And it says Salmon and Israelite.
And Israelite.
He said in the video that she was without the camp. She didn't marry no Israelite man. That's
right. He said in the video, now can I cut that down?
Yeah, you can get that because
boom, going back to the blue letter, positively to settle. When you settle somewhere, that's where you dwell, that's where you live. And it says in bold letter right here, bold to marry. Let me make sure they see that.
Let's see this right here. All right. Let me take the screen share off. Okay, stop screen share. Look at that, y'all.
Boom, you see that bold letter to marry? So make sure that they know that this is the same one. There you go. Page 3427. Go look this up yourself.
Oh.
Now let's finish the precept.
Okay, let's get it.
Finish reading the precept, right?
All right, so we in verse 25.
Read it from the top.
And Joshua saved Rahab the harlot alive and her father's household and all that she had. And she dwelt in Israel even unto this day.
She dwelt in Israel
even unto this day.
So Rahab the harlot is not listed in the genealogy of the Messiah. Solomon did not marry her. Solomon married an Israelite woman named Rahab.
You, Negro. I will ask you, Negro. Well, who the hell is Rahab then? Where is the historical information if it's not Rahab? Matthew the first chapter is the dynastic genealogy of the Messiah. Everybody that's written in the genealogy is in the law and the testimony. There's several women that's mentioned in the genealogy, such as Rahab, which you don't want to acknowledge as Rahab, which is Tamar, which was before Rahab, Tamar, which was Canaanite, Ruth. We're gonna deal with that because we got people saying Israelite, not Israelite. We're gonna do the class on who is Ruth. Is she an Israelite or Moabite? All right, and we don't stand on Moabite. On Israelite. First of all, we don't do that class. Okay, so you got Tamar, which is a Canaanite, Rahab, which is a Canaanite, right? You got Ruth, which is said in the Moabite in the script, right? You have Bathsheba, the wife of Uriah, right? And then you had Mary. So 6 women was mentioned in the genealogy, okay, of MASHAYACH YAHAWASHI. So we can go find a story on tomorrow. We can go find a story on Ruth. We can go find a story on Bathsheba. We can go find a story on Mary. So who the hell is Rahab and it's not Rahab? Where are we going to find anything about this person? Who's This is a call for Israelite out of nowhere. The scholars don't know what this is. The Bible is the contact that I was off. Phone is off. Everything is off. A call for Israelite. Who is that? Who's a Lord? Where's the other scripture? Making stuff up. Period. And then we go into Salmon, or how you say the other way? Salma, which is two different spellings. Like he said, it got to be the same spelling.
Right, and it's not.
And it's not. And he's the father of Boaz, which the mother is Rahab. Period. What's your problem? Okay, yeah. Genesis 38.
Genesis 38, verse 1. And it came to pass at that time that Judah went down from his brethren and turned into a certain Adulamite, whose name was Hirah. And Judah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite.
What?
A certain Canaanite.
You got more Canaanites in the genealogy of Yahawashi?
Whose name was Shua. And he took her and went in unto her. And she conceived and bare a son, and he called his name
So our mother was a Canaanite.
And she conceived again and bare a son, and she called his name Onan. And she yet conceived again and bare a son, and called his name Shelah. And he was at Chezib when she bare him.
Okay.
And Judah took a wife for Er, his firstborn, whose name was Tamar.
So let's find out who Tamar is. Okay? Because Tamar had Judah's child. Okay, the Most High killed her husbands, right?